Our guest today is a great singer-songwriter. He's the lead singer for the Prog supergroup Flying Colors. He's also the founder and member of the band Alpha Rev. I'd like to welcome Casey McPherson. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So I understand you're in Denver, you're snowboarding. How's that going?
Well, it's blue skies. I had a day off, and I just thought, better than sleeping in a hotel room all day, that I could get out and snowboard. So it's been pretty awesome.
So day off from the Alpha Rev tour, is that what you're up to right now?
Yeah, our record cycle's kind of starting to wrap up, and then Flying Colors, we're getting ready to go in the studio in December, so that's going to start amping up. It's kind of the cycle, the cycle of running two bands at once. I mean, Steve has it way worse than I do because he's on the road 450 days a year, but for me, my Alpha Rev stuff's kind of winding down a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys find time between everybody's busy schedule to do this thing. I mean, Portnoy is in like 5 or 6 bands, and Neil Morris has his few bands. So you guys find about 2 weeks out of a year to do this whole thing?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, the last time we were planning on making this record was in March, and so we carved out 1 week in March, and this other week in December is the second week that's been available this whole year. So we're all pretty stoked about it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm thrilled to hear that it's a continuing project and there's more music coming. So let's go back a little bit to the beginning. What got you into music and how did you get started?
Yeah, sure. I started playing piano when I was a kid, playing in being classically trained and singing in choir at church, So that was kind of my training in the very beginning, and classical music, obviously. And I think that's where I grew my first love for prog, was getting into classical. And that the only rock music that neared classical music, was Dream Theater, at least in my circles. I started listening to them. I didn't get super into the prog scene because it wasn't my strength, but strangely enough, I still really don't listen to as much music as I need to. But I fell in love with Dream Theater when I was an early teenager and started being in bands and jamming with guys during that time. And then shortly after, really, I got fired from a couple of churches for cussing over the microphone. So I figured I was going to make a band so I could be in some clubs and do my music and then I released a record, a couple of records with my band Indochine, and that's where Mike first heard me, and that's kind of where the relationship began there.
Right. He mentioned that in the live shows, that it was one of his favorite albums. So after that project, you started Alpha Rev. What was it that caused you to end Indochine and move into Alpha Rev?
Well, we were pretty crazy in Indochine, our van would catch on fire. We would, have we were super wild. Some of the stuff I probably can't even say, so I just won't. But you can just imagine. Anything you can imagine, that's what we were doing.
Right.
And so we just kind of imploded, we were selling records, we were independent, and we wanted to stay that way. But it was hard. And emotions ran high, and the drummer and I got in a big old fist fight, and that was the end of it.
Yeah, all the good stuff.
Yeah, all the good stuff. So, I started Alpha Rev with this intention to be like, man, can I be healthy and play music for a living? Is that possible? So, Alpha Rev was kind of formed out of that, and it's been my band, and I've had different members in there, but it's never been it's not an equal member kind of thing. And that's, what really excited me about Flying Colors is I didn't have to carry the weight anymore. And all of a sudden I'm, kind of thrown into this thing that I get to be a partner with and not the main guy,
So when you get the call about Flying Colors, is it Mike that reaches out to you? And what did you think when you got that call? And how did that whole process get started?
Well, I wasn't really sure who this guy Bill was that called me. He calls me and says, we were thinking about getting the guy from Muse, but we thought maybe about trying you out because Portnoy mentioned that he liked you and that you'd be the perfect guy for the job. And I was, last time I saw Mike was when we were making records both at a studio up in New York. He was finishing I guess maybe his last record with Dream Theater, and I was finishing my record that was on Hollywood Records at the time. And so, he and I kept up a little bit, but he had Bill reach out to me and he said, man, I want to send you a song idea that Neil and Steve had kind of come up with, and see what you think and see if there's something that interests you. So he sends me a 15-minute long song.
Right.
Well, I'm just like, holy shit, this is amazing, I mean, because I'm used to dealing with 3-minute songs, and when I get to 4 or 5 minutes, people look at me and they're like, oh man, what are you doing? That's way too long. So I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I got a creative outlet. I got, I was on a label. There were some problems legally, whether I should do it or not, but I just went for it and it all worked out.
Were you familiar with any of the other guys and their music?
Obviously, Steve, I was. And then after listening to some Dregs, I was nervous in the presence of Dave LaRue.
Right.
That guy is a monster. And then, Neil, I didn't know anything about Spock's Beard or Transatlantic. And, getting to know Neil's been like a really big surprise and a really cool thing because he's a super awesome dude. And the guy can play anything, and he can write in his sleep, And so watching me jumping in there, I was sure they were going to fire me the first day, when I got in there and I had my keyboard and my guitar, and they're playing in 30-second notes. And Steve is like, it's something like this. And then Dave's like, oh, you mean like this? And Neil's like, yeah, what if you added this part? And then he adds more, and then they play it. And I'm still trying to figure out if it's in the key of G or not, So that I was like, okay, well, I'm going to stick to singing right now. And then I'll back up Steve with whatever parts that are simple that he's writing that he wants me to play. And I'll throw in my 2 cents when there's room, and I put some sprinkles of keys and guitar in there, but obviously I'm wanting to show support for the brilliance of those guys. So I was really glad they didn't fire me, and it's been a really, really awesome experience.
Yeah, that's exactly what I imagine that room being with those guys. So Neil and Mike are used to writing these 20, 30-minute songs and working together a lot. And it seems like they produce these albums and these songs in a week or two all the time. Was that kind of speed and process a whirlwind to you? And were you comfortable working in that environment? How was that like?
Well, strangely enough, it was, I came in pretty prepared with a bunch of ideas. So, I felt like I did all my work before I got there.
Right.
And so when I saw how fast they moved, it was actually kind of freeing because I'm used to rehashing a 3-minute song over and over and over again and changing a chord or changing a word and just really being nitpicky. And one thing great about Mike that, it's a gift he has is he's not overly precious about what he's doing. He's like, let's feel it. Let's do it. Let's get into it. If it feels good, if it sounds right, then let's do it. Let's not talk about it, and because of that, he's able to be extremely productive. It's really fascinating the rate he works. And a lot of that has to do, the speed of the records that Mike's involved in has to do with Mike because he's fast, and he keeps things moving. And I've definitely learned a lot from him in that regard.
Yeah, that's interesting because even with his last album, his last group, the Winery Dogs, it seems like they announced the band one day and then 3 months later the album was out.
Yeah, that's Mike.
So is it hard in a room with those type of individuals to figure out who has the final say on an idea, or was it pretty much a democracy?
Well, this time around, we're not going to use a producer. So last time around, we could use Peter as the final say.
Okay.
And this time around, it's going to be different. And, all the guys are super humble. None of us have to have our way. We've all been doing this for a while, and it's really about the music, and it's about the communication between each other and the enjoyment of that. So, we can all make compromises, because a lot of times it's not a better way. One way isn't a better way. It's just one way is a one way.
Right.
And that's the beautiful thing about prog music in general, is that it's about a piece. It's about a journey in the music. It's not about one or two notes,
Yeah.
And that I think that frees up a lot for creativity. So I don't see us having any problems. And Michael probably, let's see, I'm trying to think of the strongest personalities, but I'd say it'd probably be Mike and Neil have the strongest personalities. And then Steve would be third, and then Dave and I.
What was it like for your fans getting to know this music, and to that extent, the Dream Theater and Spock's Beard fans getting to know you as well?
I really don't know. I think it's been working. It's the beautiful thing about it is if it's a true music lover, then they love both. If it's a person part of the scene, then they may get a little freaked out. One may be cool to them and the other one may not, but most people, it seems to have been a really nice change on both ends.
And the tours looked like they were a huge success. If there are future tours for the next album, are there plans to do some more shows in the States instead of the last time I know you were only able to do the two?
Yeah, we hope so. I mean, it really boils down to Steve's schedule, because he needs to have time with his family and time with Purple, and so we're we want Flying Colors to be an enjoyable thing for every single guy. It's important that it feels it's not our claim to fame; it's our outlet.
Right.
And I think us keeping it that way keeps it really light and enjoyable. So we're kind of just find the holes after the record's done. We're going to find the holes and book some shows. So hopefully we have more in the States, because we really want a longer tour there for sure.
I was at the New York show where in the beginning, I don't know if you remember, but Neil's keyboard wasn't working. And it went on for like 10 minutes, and Mike and Dave had to keep on playing the opening to Blue Ocean, which was pretty funny. It went over pretty well, but it seemed like a real Spinal Tap moment there.
Yeah, especially because it's kind of a bass solo, and there were a few Spinal Tap moments. We had that happened, and what you don't know about that show too is that I was playing a Nord as well, and that was the last time I played keyboards in the band, because that Nord, I always transpose it because they're playing in B flat or something, and so I was playing a couple of choruses, and I was like, well, I'll just tune it up a step, playing, or up, a whole step and playing C. Well, I forgot to tune it up. And the sound guy comes up to me after the show and says, man, you were playing out of key the whole entire show.
Was that the whole show?
Yeah, I mean, I only played keys on, I think, 2 or 3 of the songs, so I'm sure he just shut it off after he found that out.
Yeah, probably. I didn't notice anything out of key, but yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, it was funny. So I just dropped the keyboard and played on guitar, because those guitar harmonies I'm trying to play with Steve are still, they're really easy for him, but really difficult for me. So I spent a lot of time practicing that stuff.
I like how you guys added songs in the shows from each band member's previous bands, but what was the reason for putting in Hallelujah, which is on the live DVD?
I think I was singing it during a sound check, and Mike started freaking out. He's like, dude, you got to do that. And I said, because that only happened like halfway through the tour. So I started doing that.
Cool.
It's one of my favorite songs to sing, and he thought I should do it. So I said, okay, I'll do it. It's a little break in the set. So sometimes sound checks, weird things happen.
Cool. Let's just go back to the album for a second and the songwriting process. How did the songs come together? Did each person start apart, or were you guys jamming in a room together? How did that work out?
Well, I mean, there wasn't a rule, but we definitely had some ideas that I had brought to the table, some ideas that Steve had brought to the table, and Neil, and then some ideas that Steve and Neil, having written together, brought. This time around, it's going to be similar, but there's some ideas that we've all worked together on Skype, and then some loners, and so we kind of, have this whole pod of things that we've, little licks and little lyrics and chord progressions, and
right.
That's our seed, and so we bring that seed into the space, and then we just start going, and then after, we do a week of that, and I sing stream of conscious, so I just make up words and sounds. So, the sound of a word is really important to me, so I'll start with that, and then Neil and I will go in after everybody's left. We'll work on lyrics back and forth. Once we've agreed to that, then I'll come back and sing all the vocals. It's kind of, and Mike, he lays all his drums down in a day. So
probably my favorite song on the album is "Everything Changes," and I was wondering what the story was behind that song, and also the beginning guitar part reminds me a lot of stuff from one of Steve's solo albums. Is that something that he came up with?
Oh yeah, that's straight out of Steve's brain,
right?
And I hope that we get more of that on this next record, because it's just, that stuff is so beautiful, that song and some of the other ones, there's this underlying theme that I was going lyrically for, was a vampire that was seeking to be human again, in the sense that he was, thirsty for something that was destructive, and then saw the frailty of the human experience and wanted to get back there. And so the idea of us being humans and wanting to get, when we get locked down on whether it's money or power or whatever it is that becomes our kind of blood that we continue to need for us to feel like we're living, to kind of shed that stuff and find kind of freedom by not needing any of that stuff anymore. So there's a lot of underlying kind of themes that went along with that. I couldn't quite do a concept record with it, for this particular one, but that's a lot of what I was thinking about.
Very cool. Just to touch on the last Alpha Rev album that came out earlier this year, how was the album and the tour, and is that still going on, and what are plans with the band moving forward?
Well, the tours went great. I mean, we started in March, and we're kind of, starting to wrap up now. The record did well on what they call AAA format radio.
Right.
The first record was fairly acoustic, so it was fun. But I'm ready to get I love playing around the campfire, but now I'm ready to turn up the amp, if that makes sense. So, I'm starting to kind of write for that record, and the label we're on, Kirtland, is great. And yeah, so that's been going good. It's easy.
Very cool. Looking forward to that. What bands are you into these days? What kind of music are you listening to?
One band I just saw the other day that I don't know if I'm into them, but what I love about them is they don't care about structure of a song. It's called the OCs, and they're kind of punky and they're kind of indie and they're a little trendy, but the idea that they take a chord progression and dynamically bring it up and down, and in and out, and I really love that. Obviously I'm a big fan of Muse.
Yeah, there's some of that on the album, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I've never really got to do a lot of that stuff either on the Alpha Rev stuff, so I was really excited to be operatic, in some of the Flying Color stuff. But let's see, I'm trying to think. Sigur Rós, I'll still put them on, when I get a lot of ideas just by listening to them. So those are a few of the bands I'm checking out right now.
So yeah, man, that's it for me. Thanks for spending some time. I really really appreciate it. And I just want to say that all the guys in the band and now Flying Colors and the music you guys do is really some of my favorite music. And I really look forward to some new music from you guys, and hopefully some new shows. And I will definitely come out and see you guys again, and all that stuff. And good luck with everything.
Please do, and let me know when you show up, and we'll throw you on the list.
Awesome. Very cool, man. Enjoy the snow out there some more if you can, and we'll be in touch. Thanks.
I will. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Bye.
Okay, we're going to close with a track from the Flying Colors Live in Europe CD, the track All Falls Down. Check out theprogreport.com for more information and upcoming interviews. Thanks.
fight for love. Where lies our treasure, so shall we become.